Welcome everyone, my name is Sean, and in a previous video on this channel, I called out YouTube creator Danskin, who runs the channel called Innuendo Studios, for producing a video on his channel about the sad life of being a YouTuber, and of course that video was entitled, Being a YouTuber Bankrupted Me, and throughout the course of that video, he threw out ridiculous statement after ridiculous statement, like the fact that he had been running his YouTube channel, which by the way, YouTube channels are notoriously cheap to run, at a loss for the past 7 years, and then he followed that up by begging for money on GoFundMe, and of course, he made no promises to anybody out there in the audience that he would actually produce any content going forward. Well, guess what? We have an update to this story, and now Danskin has posted on Blue Sky that he is going to be taking the money that was supposedly to help him pay off his debt, avoid bankruptcy, get himself out of the poorhouse, and going on vacation with it. This man just straight up scammed all the members of his audience, a la Keffels before him and many other lefties before him, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel that, actually produces content for you guys via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
So the original Danskin video about how he went broke being a YouTuber was ridiculous in every possible way, had obvious manipulation tactics in it, had a million cuts while trying to appear to be authentic, with the crappy lighting and all that other nonsense throughout the course of the video. However, obviously I knew from the jump that the number one reason that this man was in debt, if we are to believe that to be true, is because he doesn't produce any content. He barely does any work, and this is shown to us by the fact that his backlog shows that he's produced only a few videos within the last calendar year.
Y'all don't do no work.
Again, prior to saying being a YouTuber bankrupted him, he produced a video 4 months ago, another video prior to that, which by the way, wasn't even narrated by him, a 2-minute video 7 months ago, an 8-month ago video that is 6 minutes and 38 seconds, and of course a video that was put out 11 months ago. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos produced before he pled bankruptcy within the last year, not even the last calendar year, within the last 365 days. So obviously, if you're not producing content and you make money via ad revenue, you are not going to make money. So him saying, oh my God, my life is so sad, I'm basically going bankrupt because, I didn't show up to work, I didn't do any work, and for some reason, money stopped coming in, was just ridiculous. It was absolutely asinine in every way, but this is what he actually put forward, and of course, his audience ended up responding to him by raising $155,000 for him. And by the way, other YouTubers also cheerleaded Ian in this scheme, in this fraud that he perpetuated against his audience, like Vosh, for instance. Now, I also highlighted that despite the fact that Danskin is putting in no work, as the super mayor would say.
Y'all don't do no work.
He happens to run a successful Patreon operation that generates $6,900 a month, which is $83,000 a year. And to me, some of the most asinine statements throughout the course of his video was that he didn't think there was anything that he could have possibly done at all whatsoever in order to make $100 grand more in the previous years in which he went bankrupt.
And I'm not going to say I'm perfect at managing money. There wasn't a life I could have been living these past 7 years where I would have earned $100,000 more than I did. So,
now guys, I gotta tell you, I am a YouTuber. I am on the back end. I know what views are worth. I know what you can get via CPMs from YouTube.com. And this guy is generating something like 500,000 views on his flagship series. So if he just produced more of those, then he would definitely easily be able to make not only $100,000 over the past 7 years more, but $100,000 in addition to that in ad revenue per year. It is definitely possible with this view total. I don't get this view total per video. It's very rare for me to have a video that's that big of a hit, but guess what? When I do, I earn really good money.
I just can't take it anymore. This is just a lot of strain to put on me and to put on my family. And I've felt for a long time that like I'm on the verge of, you know, kind of like making it. Like I've been dancing around the periphery for a while, you know, back in 2020, right before COVID happened, you know, like the numbers were really doing good. The Patreon was really solid. I was making more money than I'd ever made. And it really seemed like it was going to keep heading that way. And then they just started to dip and it's never really recovered.
Now, of course, Ian Danskin ended up saying, oh, well, the COVID ad rates were so much higher, but those dropped off, and I just really don't know how to make this profitable. It's so sad. Please help me. My life is so miserable. And again, I will point out that the COVID ad rates fell off back in 2021. This is something like 4 years ago. Your ad rates, your CPM, ended up cutting in half. It's something that I experienced, but rather than plead poverty to you guys out there in the audience, rather than set up a fundraiser, you know what I did? I started a website. I started offering memberships if people wanted to support me. I ended up producing more content. A lot of times I'm throwing out 2 videos a day in order to make sure that I can produce for you guys out there in the audience, because for me, for somebody who's supposedly a right-wing grifter, it's absolutely shameful for me to expect you guys to subsidize my lifestyle while I'm not producing anything. But of course, Ian Danskin doesn't have those hang-ups. And again, the manipulation tactics throughout the course of this video were absurd in every way. This guy was talking about how, oh, he doesn't even understand the concept of free time in this clip right here.
I can't keep struggling in the meantime. So for now, we're going to call this a sabbatical. I'm not officially quitting. It's possible I will find part-time work, which means that, you know, if it's enough hours that it brings in decent money that I could supplement Patreon and AdSense with, I could keep doing this part-time, which is, you know, when I started out, that's what it was. It was a thing I was juggling with freelancing in school. So maybe that's an option. I have to see what's out there. But at least for the next month or so, kind of my mindset is to live my life with the question, what if I wasn't a YouTuber? Like, how would I spend my time? Where would I put my energies? What would I work on if you didn't always have that gnawing feeling of like, I should be working on my video? You know, what would my home look like? What would my social life look like? How would my free time look? Free time? The concept.
When again, I want to point out, he's uploaded like 4 videos within the last 365 days. He has nothing but free time. He also ended up saying that he hurt his back, as if YouTube is this labor-intensive project that ends up requiring you to do literal heavy lifting, which is also insane.
You know, once I hurt my back and I couldn't work for a while, and life just got more expensive, it's really seemed like, especially with joining Nebula and everything, it keeps feeling like if I could just hang on a little longer, I get it cracked. And I'd become one of those like fully self-sustained people, and maybe I would, you know, maybe if I could hold on a little longer, I would, but I can't.
And again, I'm telling you this as somebody who is on this side of the camera. I'm telling you this who actually produces multiple edited videos on a daily basis. Sometimes I take a day or 2 as a break, but most of the time I'm producing 30 to 40 videos each and every month, closer to 50 in some months. That yes, you can still have free time on that schedule. Although to be clear, I often end up losing out on different things that I could be doing in my personal life in order to work. But that's a sacrifice I choose to make because I am rewarded for doing that, both financially, with audience growth, and all these other things. This guy is choosing to be lazy, but he is also complaining about how he has just no free time. What is he ever to do? But again, this is all stuff that we covered in the previous video. This is all the setup. This is all the prelude to this absolute scam. Because as I told you before, Ian Danskin said that he owed about $87,000 in bad debt. We're talking credit card debt and all sorts of things for running his low-cost, probably no-cost YouTube channel at a loss for the past 7 years, which again just means that he is spending more than he takes in personally, and he's putting that loss on the business, and he expects you to subsidize it. And I'm talking to the royal you of people out there in his audience, and subsidize it they did. They ended up raising $155,000 for him. They ended up giving him nearly double what he said he needed in order to pay off his debt. And of course, like I told you in the previous video, all of this fundraising was done under the premise that he is not promising to do any work for people out there in his audience. All of this fundraising was set up under the premise that he may or may not do something at some point in the future. He may collab, but he really just wants to make no promises. He just wants you to give him the money, which again, I'm a fan of playing that Anna Kasparian give me the money clip.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
But the fact is, in this particular scenario, you definitely shouldn't have given him the money because there's no reason why this shouldn't be a profitable YouTube channel. And in addition to that, he's blowing the money. He's going on vacation. Now, this was sent to me from the same member of my Discord who ended up sending me the original video, and it is a post from Ian Danskin's Blue Sky account, which for those of you who are unaware is the ultra left-wing alternative to Twitter. But I also want to highlight before I even read this post that Ian Danskin had to block replies on Blue Sky to this particular post, to this particular thread. So it reads as follows: status update. I am on sabbatical for the summer. I will be doing a project of some sort with a friend in September. By the time that's done, I will have decided whether I'm still a YouTuber. In the meantime, I may make things, but making video essays is not officially my job. Guys, isn't that amazing? Isn't that impressive? The guy raises $155,000. He raises it from his audience who presumably enjoyed his work, even though, by the way, let's be clear, it's absolutely crap work. But guess what? This was given to him under the premise that he was losing so much money with his no-cost YouTube video making operation that he just needed it in order to maintain himself, and he has decided to take a vacation for the summer. How nice must that be? Like he's a little child, you know, on break from school, and he's just gonna let you guys know out there in the world that he is definitely not officially a YouTube video essayist, which, by the way, we already knew. He was already on sabbatical. He hadn't produced anything in the last 4 months, and even when he did, he didn't even read the script in that video. He had philosophy to read the script in that video, but guess what? He's not officially at this job anymore. He's on sabbatical, which means nothing has changed at all whatsoever, which means, just like I predicted in my previous video, he is gonna burn through that money almost immediately and end up in the same position that he was in previous. Now, I will also point out that throughout the course of his original video, he talked about how, oh, the YouTubers, they're all doing worse except for the big names than you think, which is absolutely false and untrue.
Outside of a few big names, probably almost all of your favorite YouTubers are doing worse than you think.
Look, I'm doing well, guys. I want you guys to understand that. If you choose to support me, that's absolutely great, but it is not mandatory for you to do so because I produce enough content in order to have a comfortable life. Now, of course, I would love to buy a home at some point in time, but guess what? It is on me to save the money for the down payment, and my wife, by the way, who also works. It is not on you guys to have a fundraiser for me to go through my day-to-day responsibilities or, you know, ignore my day-to-day responsibilities. But Ian Danskin feels otherwise, and guess what? This thread actually continues. No idea what the September project will be. All we've done is agreed to make something. I don't know if it's an album or a painting or a web app or a home movie of us singing Welcome to the Black Parade at karaoke. Clear your mind of expectations. Again, this is absolutely one of the most absurd threads I've ever read in my entire life. He says he's not a YouTuber anymore. Thanks for the money, idiots. I'm going on vacation, probably a fun European excursion. Gonna blow through it, but don't worry, I have a project in September that's coming. And then in the very next post, he ends up saying, well, I don't really have anything planned. I just agreed to make something, and it could be as ridiculously stupid as me and my buddy singing karaoke. This is what he's promising to people who gave him $155,000. This is what he's promising to people who put up $6,900 a month for him on Patreon for him to create content. Again, wild that this is actually posted, but the thread goes on. I'm noodling some other ideas for the summer. I will certainly keep making things, but I'm not committing to anything specific, and I make no promises they will go public. Quote, is Ian still a YouTuber? Will be answered sometime in October. So again, no commitment, no promises. You gave him the money. You donated to get him out of debt, a debt that he should not have been in, a debt that was caused by him not going to work, but he's not making any promises to you guys that he's actually going to produce anything for you, because that would involve him actually being a man, being an adult, taking responsibility for his own life, and obviously Innuendo Studios, the communist YouTuber, is completely and wholly incapable of doing that. Because no amount of saying it will ever feel like enough. Thank you to everyone for the massive outpouring of support in paying off my debts and pushing my Patreon to and then beyond sustainable levels. I am floored. It means the world to me. Grateful beyond words. More details are up on Patreon if you want to throw $1 at me, but that is very much a, quote, if you want to proposition. It is no longer a crisis. When I saw this actual post at the bottom of this thread, I thought to myself, this isn't real. This can't be his actual account. But as Anna Kasparian once said, it's real, guys. It's real.
This isn't a thing. This isn't real. This isn't real. So I looked it up. It's real, guys. It's real.
This lazy mother effer, this bum communist on the internet.com that threw a cup in front of himself and started begging for change basically on the digital square is saying that if you want more information on what he's going to do with his life, you have to donate money in order to figure out exactly how little content he is going to produce. He says, thank you guys for paying off my debts, for bailing me out of this absolutely embarrassing self-inflicted situation that I've never taken any accountability for. And if you want to learn what I'm going to do with your money, if you want to learn how I'm going to spend it beyond the debt, because, you know, you nearly doubled up what I said was my alleged debt in my original video and in my original GoFundMe, then you have to pay me in order to know. You have to pay me not to produce anything just to figure out more information on what I'm not producing.
Even if the financial precarity, like my official position right now, is that it's not worth it anymore. For those 11 years, it really was. And I don't know what's out there. I'm probably calling a temp agency on Monday. Good God. You know what it's like to have a resume that just says content creator for 11 years? What does that even qualify you for?
Now, in my previous video on this particular topic, some people left me comments wondering why I was so mad at this guy, why I was going so hard against him, and in reality, there is a number of reasons for that, but I do want to say, for those of you out there in the audience who say, well, he has a largely dumb lefty audience that are being scammed by him, so it's a fool being parted with their dollar, therefore that's acceptable. Well, there's a couple of things that I would say in order to disabuse you of that notion, and first and foremost, it's not about those lefties. It's not about the people in the audience that are absolute idiots that got scammed. It's about the general idea of YouTubers scamming people that I absolutely can't stand. Social media influencers do this all the time, and this is one of the reasons why people who are actually legitimate and want to produce things for their audience are very hesitant about raising money through fundraisers. I mean, I told you guys this years ago, but I was in talks with somebody who had made a number of documentary films about about what I would need in order to make a documentary film myself. And I actually started buying some of the necessary equipment, but I didn't want to raise money for it. And because YouTube rates ended up collapsing, and by the way, the reason I didn't want to raise money for it is because I had never made a feature-length documentary, so I didn't know if it was going to be any good. So I ended up having to shelve that project for what is now like 4 years. And that's just the reality, because I don't think it is incumbent on you in order to finance me. I should put the money up myself if I believe it's a worthwhile project. But in addition to that, people like Ian Danskin, all these left-wing scumbags that promoted him, that promoted his fundraiser, will call everyone and anyone on the right side of the political spectrum grifters. What is more of a grift than this right here? What is more of an unethical scam than this right here? And make no mistake about it, I'm not somebody who pretends I don't care about money. I'm not somebody who pretends that this isn't my job right here. This isn't what I do for a living. But these people do. They pretend that they're above all of that. And the thing is, while I actually put in the work, while I actually upload on a schedule or a pseudo schedule in order for you guys to hear the stories and whatnot and engage with my content, so you almost always have something to watch, these people don't. They don't do anything. They're lazy. They're absolute scum. They pretend that they're these holier than thou figures, and constantly they scam their audience. The guy has already been off for 4 months straight. He comes back on to beg for money, to say, oh my God, I haven't been able to manage my finances for over a decade. Oh, so sad. Thank you so much for Innuendo Studios. He ends up getting the money, and now he's going on vacation. He says, I need a 3-month break, maybe more. And by the way, when I come back, I may upload to my Patreon a video of me singing karaoke with my friend, because that's the big project that I'm teasing right now, and it could be as minimal and crappy as that. But if you want to know more about how I'm incinerating your money, consider contributing $1 to my Patreon, because we gotta go get those right-wing grifters. Again, scumbag through and through, absolute mess of a life. And by the way, make no mistake about it, with this kind of mindset and behavior, Ian Danskin will be broke and begging for people to drop some quarters in his cup in just a couple of years. Mark my words, that's where this guy is headed, because he has no work ethic, and you can only play that sympathy card so many times before people get sick of it. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I happen to be 100% right about everything I said throughout the course of this video, but I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Ian Danskin, e-begging and going on vacation. Till next time.